It's so interesting being a minister because I always really want to walk my talk. I'd like to live by one set of rules, these spiritual rules that I know and I want to live. And I had a very interesting exercise the other day looking at, do I live by one set of rules? I went to my fitness club, and I went in there, and I was a little late, and everybody had their benches set up. They were doing this muscle building experience, but we did it on benches. And there was a large place, and there was a little place, and there was a lady right there with me with her bench. And she went on over to the larger place, and I went on to the smaller place, and I set up, and I was just trying to work things out with where I was. And I thought, okay, I'm good here. This is all right. And about halfway through the class, she came over to me and she said, oh, I'm really, thank you. I hope you didn't want that spot. I hope you're okay. And I said, oh, no, I'm fine. It's all good. And at the end of the class, she came over to me and she said, Heidi, it's really good to see you. I go to Unity Temple on the Plaza. And my name is so-and-so. And I went, oh, really nice to meet you. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad I didn't live in that other set of rules. That one that's like, I really need that large spot in the exercise class or I'm really upset. And you know that person. You know that person. The traffic's against us. The lady at the exercise room is against us. You know that person. So how did we come to be these people who have forgotten who we are and that there's so darn many of us in us? It's because we've done some things like live for others. Live for others. I heard a saying today that when we live for others, you can always tell by the pained expression on the others. Because when you heard about being a good girl or a good boy, we started to change our authenticity so people would be happy, right? And have you heard that kind of thing then, that I have suffered so you would be happy? Maybe you heard that as a kid, or maybe even people say that to you today. Does that really work? I mean, perhaps if we know ourselves better, we can say, if there's something that I think I wouldn't do something because it would make you uncomfortable, perhaps I could come into relationship with you and say, I was thinking that if I did this, you'd be uncomfortable. Is that true for you? And allow myself to get to know myself better, present that in relationship, and allow that person to tell me if they'd be uncomfortable or not. We walk around in this plain small that doesn't serve the world, and nobody wins. Nobody wins. There's that you need to know better so you can present that person in the world. The other thing we do is we take things so personally. If you're looking at me strangely, then it was something I did. It must be something that this minister must have had a tricky time with this. There was a man in the middle of his sermon that just got up and left the church. And the wife of this man came up afterward and said, Pastor, I'm sorry, it's not that Harold doesn't like your sermon. It's just that he's been sleepwalking since he was 5. So, it's hard not to take life personally. But you can't not be you just because of the opinions of other people. Can you all imagine if I wanted to change who I was because of every idea of every person in this church? It'd be a little distorted. But that's how we live. We live in this place of, I want to change me so you will like me more. But do you get it that the people that are really easy to love and like are people that really know themselves? They feel confident in themselves. So who do I think I am? Proverbs says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So how are you thinkestein about yourself? What are your thoughts about yourself? And can they include, they should include, brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous. Lisa, what was your sign that you wore through the airport? Thank you for the beauty you bring to my life. Lisa Almond Baldwin wears name tags that are affirmations around in the world. And thank you for the beauty that you bring to my life, and obviously from that place of knowing yourself. And she went to the airport with this, thank you for the beauty you bring to my life. And she was going through security, and here was one of the fellows with the guns and, very, very concerned about Lisa and what she's up to. And with that, thank you for the beauty that you bring to my life. He said, thank you. And he relaxed. He said his whole body language changed. So as we walk around in that sense of knowing ourselves better and living from brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous, and thanking the people in our life for noticing that about themselves also, our whole world will change. Elizabeth Gilbert is the author of a book, Eat, Pray, Love. She was out at Unity Village on Tuesday night, and I had the remarkable pleasure of going and spending some time with her as she talked about this topic that we're talking about today, to know yourself better. To know yourself better. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book entitled Eat, Pray, Love. And she was commissioned to travel to 3 countries, Italy, India, and Indonesia. 4 months in each country, eating in Italy, praying in India, and loving in Indonesia. Now, the interesting part about this trip for Elizabeth Gilbert is that she was divorced right before she left on this trip. And what this book is all about is it's not really a book about the culture and the food and the language, although it's a bit about that, but it's about Elizabeth Gilbert's personal transformation, getting to know herself better. And as I was reading this book, I couldn't put it down because her story was my story. It's all of our story of looking at the ways life brings us situations that create angst and joy and insights. And this place of having to strip away the old so we can see the truth of who we are. And I was amazed at how many people seem to be reading that book at the same time. When I was reading the book, I went to the beauty salon where they just enhance what I already love about myself, right? And so as I went in with my book, there were 3 other women right in that place reading the same book. And I thought, isn't it wonderful how when we all get together as we do this morning and talk about awakening and transformation, that we're all about this. This is what our life is about. And Elizabeth talked about this journey of writing this book really for herself. She didn't write it with any thought of 5 million readers buying the book. She wrote it because it was where she was in her life, and it was the story of her life and her personal transformation. And she said, as I was talking about this way that we can start shifting ourselves for the opinion of other people, that after she sold this 5 million copies of this book, Julia Roberts has now bought the movie rights for the movie, that as she was sitting down to write her next book, she said she felt like she had 5 million readers looking over her shoulder. And each sentence she wrote, is this as good as Eat, Pray, Love? Is this as good as Eat, Pray, Love? Is this as good as Eat, Pray, Love? And she said she couldn't write because this me, this you that is you, isn't about pleasing other people. It isn't about the opinions of others to find you. It's that flow, that font that's within you that always wants to be expressed. So what she did in this sense of really, she wrote a whole book that through that with that sense of it's got to be better than Eat, Pray, Love. And as she read through this manuscript, she said, it's not any good. She said, it isn't me. It's a person that I'm trying to be rather than this real me that wants to be expressed. And so she called her editor the last day and said, I know you all paid me to do this next book, but I can't do it. This is not it. I'll give you your money back, whatever you need.